Hello, Gene Schwimmer here. Welcome to today's vlog. Another day where a late-breaking development caused me to throw all my plans aside for what I wanted to talk about today. But there is something here that could really be major. I'm going to get to that in a moment, but there's one other item, another important development that I have to cover first. I'm recording this on Friday, the major development that I'm about to talk about. You'll know more about it on Monday, but stay tuned. You'll see what I'm talking about in a minute. I won't keep you in suspense any longer than I have to. The first item I have to cover, though, is, here's the headline: Pennsylvania court rejects Trump appeal. Campaign lawyers say it's on to SCOTUS. SCOTUS being Supreme Court of the United States, if you didn't know that. The U.S. Third Circuit of Appeals in Pennsylvania on Friday rejected President Donald Trump's campaign appeal in their challenge of the state's election results, a move that Trump's lawyers said will allow them to expedite their lawsuits to the U.S. Supreme Court. Quote, "The activist judicial machinery in Pennsylvania continues to cover up the allegations of massive fraud. We are very thankful to have had the opportunity to present proof and the facts to the Pennsylvania State Legislature," unquote, Trump lawyers Jenna Ellis and former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani wrote in response. Well, I just have to put a small caveat there, jump in here with a comment about the activist judicial machinery. All three of the judges are Republican appointees. One of the Republican judges, in fact, was appointed by Donald Trump. So I don't know how much activism there is there, to be perfectly fair. But going on here, I'll give you a couple more quotes here and comments. The Third Circuit Court of Appeals wrote that the Trump campaign's challenge doesn't have merit, saying that, quote, "Voters, not lawyers, choose the president. Ballots, not briefs, decide elections. The ballots here are governed by Pennsylvania election law," unquote. And pay attention, this is important here if you want to know the full import of this decision. Quote from the Third Circuit decision, quote, "No federal law," that's important, "no federal law requires poll watchers or specifics where they must live or how close they may stand when votes are counted. Nor does federal law govern whether to count ballots with minor state law defects or let voters cure those defects. Those are all issues of state laws, not ones that we can hear," unquote. The court also asserted that Trump's legal team did not provide evidence of their claims of fraud, which is the main issue, which I'll get to in a second. This kind of catch-22, I'll get to that in a second, but first of all, they're talking about federal law. Yes, it's state law, not federal law, that governs elections. I'll get to more of that in a moment, but that's all the court is saying. This is a federal court, and they're saying that there's nothing they can really adjudicate because it's a matter of state law. This is a federal court. But this other statement that the Trump legal team didn't provide evidence of their claims of fraud, that's the whole point. The court is saying that there's no federal law against not having observers from each party observe the counting of the ballots. There is a state law that requires that, but the court didn't rule on that because it's a federal court that's a state matter. But this kind of catch-22 that I was referring to a moment earlier, they're not presenting evidence of fraud because they can't look for it. They weren't allowed to observe the counting of the ballots. Had they been, that's the whole point. Why were they not allowed to observe as they are required to under the Pennsylvania state law? If they can't watch the ballots being counted, then how can they see the fraud? The not being able to see the ballots being counted, that is not proof of fraud, of course. That is evidence of fraud. There has to be an explanation of why they were not allowed to watch. And that is the crux of the whole point that the Trump campaign lawyers are trying to make. So far, no court has actually looked at any evidence, which gets us to somebody who did get to look at some evidence. The people who were able to see evidence, hear actual live testimony from witnesses under oath, under penalty of perjury, some of whom are lawyers and experts. The people who were allowed to hear and see this evidence were the members of the state legislature, the Pennsylvania state legislature, who held a hearing a couple of days ago, a couple of days before I'm recording this on Friday. You're seeing it on Monday. They heard evidence, and based on what they heard, look at this headline. It just came out today. Pennsylvania GOP legislature will seek to reclaim power to appoint electors. So says a state senator. Pennsylvania State Senator Doug Mastriano, a Republican, said Friday that the GOP-controlled state legislature will make a bid to reclaim its power to appoint the state's electors to the Electoral College, saying they could start the process on Monday, November 30th, the day that you're watching this video. We'll see how that turned out. Let's see if there was any progress on that. Getting back to this article, though, I want to give you a little bit more from it. Mastriano, by the way, was the state senator who chaired the hearing to which I just referred a moment ago, where Giuliani and Jenna Ellis and several witnesses were able to testify, and it was really shocking. I linked in that earlier vlog where I covered this to the entire hearing. I urge everybody to watch it if you can find the time. It's a good couple of hours, but couple of hours well spent. Mastriano said that he has been in communication with Republican Pennsylvania House and Senate members to reclaim their constitutional authority from the Secretary of State's office. The reason why, he said, is due to a hearing in Gettysburg, the one I just referred to, with GOP state senators that heard witness testimony from poll watchers and others, the experts I was talking about a moment ago, who alleged there were significant irregularities and fraud during the presidential election. He, Mastriano, said that about half of the state GOP House and Senate leaders and legislators support the move to reclaim their constitutional authority. And this is important here, both the state House and Senate are controlled by Republicans. Quote, so we're going to do a resolution between the House and Senate, hopefully today, unquote, he told Steve Bannon's War Room on Friday. I've spent 2 hours online trying to coordinate this with my colleagues, and there's a lot of good people working this here, saying that the resolution saying we're going to take our power back. Syntax is a little mixed up there. I'm just reading it verbatim. We're going to seat the electors. Now, obviously, we're going to need the support of the leadership of the House. We're getting there on that. Mastriano acknowledged that the legislature will attempt to take the power back from the Democratic governor and Secretary of State offices over electors. Quote, that is exactly what we're going to do, unquote. He added, saying that it will, quote, obviously be a struggle, unquote. It could be a struggle, but it's a struggle in which the Pennsylvania state legislature has the Constitution on its side, because the time and manner of elections is determined solely by the state legislature. The governor has no role. The Secretary of State is subordinate to the legislature. They can't do anything about it. And you know who else can't do anything about it? The courts. So this Third Circuit decision that I just gave you a moment ago, it has no bearing anymore. It's totally irrelevant if the legislature goes forward to appoint its own slate of electors who will have to vote for whichever candidate the legislature directs. Given that the legislature is controlled, both houses, by Republicans, I think we can safely say that that will be Donald Trump. They can whine, they can struggle, but I don't see in the end what they can do about it, especially when we have, from the Supreme Court, we have an opinion from one of the justices, Justice Alito, who made this very point, that the state legislatures have the sole power of selecting electors to the Electoral College. I'll just end with stay tuned, and a thank you for, once again, spending time with me. I appreciate you spending your time with me. If you could spend a little more time with me, I would love to get a thumbs up if you like this video. Share with anybody you think would also like the video. Got any comments? Comment section below the video where you can put questions, suggestions for future topics. You could also listen to my original, really fantastic music that I put on my music channel. There's a link in the description under my music pseudonym, Gene Allan. Allan's my middle name, if you're curious. You can subscribe. I love getting subscribers. The more, the better. But most of all, come back and see me again. I look forward to seeing all of you again. And until I do see all of you again, bye.